happy to have you here. This is in connection with Black History Month. We thought it appropriate and fitting to convene some type of virtual event. We can't have our usual festivities, but we felt it was important for us all to connect, and we are so appreciative of having Supervisor Walton join us this morning to help kick off today's event and give you some welcoming comments and share with you really his initiatives around diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically in terms of contracting opportunities for Lbes in San Francisco. So if you all can join me in thanking Supervisor Walton for making time to participate today, I'm going to turn the microphone over to him.
Thank you so much, Ingrid, for having me this morning. And it's just great to see so much participation. I want to start off by saying happy Black History Month to everyone. I really do think we, of course, take this time to celebrate the contributions of Black people across the country and here in San Francisco during February, but we also have to always continue to be mindful of the greatness of Black people 365 days a year. It's important that we honor the diversity of all people and all humanity, and I'm just excited to have an opportunity to say a few words for everyone this morning. I know you have a packed session ahead of you, but in my role, I've really been trying to do everything we can to provide opportunities for our local businesses to be successful, particularly around contracting. I think a lot of you know some of the changes we made with the 14B legislation and providing more opportunity for local businesses and hyper-local businesses to be able to be successful in contracting and to also really receive better support and better opportunities when it comes to working with our primes here in the city. And so you're going to continue to see us look at what other opportunities we can provide for our local businesses, even looking into ways and strategies that make sure businesses, in order to qualify and say they're a true San Francisco business, they've spent some time here so that our businesses can benefit and people can't just come in and say they're a San Francisco business and take away from your opportunities. And this is something that we're going to continue to work on. The big thing for us also is just really to be supportive of our business community. So if there are things that you need, if there are things that are not happening, things you want to discuss and issues you want to talk about, my office is always open. You can always reach out to us and we will sit down with you and try to figure out the best path forward and what opportunities exist, because I truly believe in the fabric of small business and most definitely believe in the fabric of our local businesses here in San Francisco. So I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. I think that as we continue to flesh out more opportunities like the Dreamkeeper Initiative and the things that we provide in there, small business opportunities has been a major part of that. I know some of you have also seen that the Office of Economic and Workforce Development has obtained the funding to be able to forgive some of the loans that were provided to Black businesses during the pandemic. We fought real hard to get interest loans, fought real hard to get grants during the pandemic, particularly for our small business community that had suffered some major negative impacts during the pandemic. And I'm just thankful that resources have now been provided to where those loans are going to be forgiven because people are going to be given the resources to pay back those loans. So you're going to see us continue to focus on doing more of that because we need our businesses to stay here in San Francisco and we need you all to be successful. And it's my job as a president of the Board of Supervisors and particularly representing District 10, where we have a plethora of small businesses and particularly small businesses that do contracting work. So thank you for your time and looking forward to checking in with all of you again soon.
Thank you, Supervisor Walton, not just for joining us today, but really for all the efforts you're extending and just showing leadership on this issue. We've all been chatting amongst ourselves about what it's going to take to prevent some of the outward migration of African Americans in San Francisco. And I think protecting the interests of Black business is key in protecting the interests of retaining Black residents in San Francisco as well. So again, want to just acknowledge and say thank you for all your leadership. You're focused in the right directions in terms of relieving some of the financial impediments that LBEs face, and always is the case, unfortunately, so even more so disproportionately African-American businesses. So thank you again for just all of your leadership and an open door policy. I have a feeling that we're going to be taking full advantage of that and coming to you with some requests and seeking some assistance to continue to improve the environment for our businesses. So thank you again for joining us, and we appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to our continued work together.
Wonderful. So at this juncture in the presentation, we thought it fitting to just give you a general sense of some of the projects. Most of these are projects happening in D10, so you can see that there's a lot of activity. This is not by far a complete list, but we just wanted to provide just a sense of what projects are occurring in D10 that are areas where the supervisor's efforts are having impact in terms of more participation of our businesses. So I'm just going to go through these very, very quickly. There's just general information here, but as we said at the beginning of our event, we will be distributing out this presentation, so you'll have this information as a reference. And then, of course, you know, if you want more assistance in finding out more about these projects, we're happy to assist you. So one of the projects we wanted to profile was the Bayview Transportation Improvement Project. This is to improve existing the roadway network within San Francisco's southeast waterfront community. This is being convened by the Department of Public Works, and you can see this project has a long tail because it's expected to be ongoing until 2034. So might be a project you want to look into to see where there are continuing opportunities for your businesses to participate. Next slide. Next project we wanted to profile is the India Basin Shoreline Park. This project was created as an equitable development plan with community input for a waterfront park that will benefit Bayview Hunters Point residents while preserving the culture and identity of the neighborhood. This is being convened by the Department of Park and Recs, and this project is ongoing till 2025. Another project, Piers 80 through 96, Maritime Eco-Industrial Strategy. This looks like a project that's in the southeast part of San Francisco, extending from Mission Bay to Candlestick Point. This is remaining industrial lands that have been targeted for new development to increase housing supply and accommodate much of the city's projected economic and employment growth. And this project is being convened by the Port of San Francisco. The Folsom Area Stormwater Improvement Project. This is the Folsom Area project that's part of the SFPUC flood resilient effort for the new CSIP, Sewer System Improvement Program. Of course, it's being convened by the PUC, and it's slated to start in this year, 2022. Visitation Valley and Portola Community-Based Transportation Plan. This is a community-fueled planning and engagement effort led by SFMTA with District 9, District 10, and strong local stakeholder partnership. This is being convened by the MTA, and this project is just beginning in the planning phase. So thank you, Jennifer, and the team for doing the research to identify some projects that we could profile. At this point, you already heard Supervisor Walton talk a little bit about some of the recent changes, improvements really, to 14B, the LBE Ordinance. And so we are happy to have some members of the Contract Monitoring Division, of course, who oversees the LBE program here to give you an overview and provide a little more detail. You can go to the next slide. So just by way of quick introduction, we have the CMD director, a name we all know and think of fondly in terms of an advocate for LBEs, Romulus. We have Latan Wells, who is the CMD certification manager, who will actually start us off in this presentation. And then one of the newest members to CMD that our team happens to work very closely with, Peter Jablonski. But to get us started, we're going to have Latan provide an overview of some of the updates to the 14B ordinance. I think you can go to the next slide, Judy, for Latan. One more, there we go.
Good morning. Thank you. First, I would like to thank Merriwether and Williams for hosting the Contract Monitoring Division. And thank Supervisor Walton for helping to create opportunities for our local, small, diverse businesses, especially now during today's economic times. It's so much needed and necessary. I'm Latan Wells, as Ms. Merriwether mentioned, and I'm the CMD certification manager. I have with me our director, Romulus Asenlu, who will speak about our 14B local business enterprise ordinance and updates to the ordinance, legislative updates. I will be speaking about certification updates, and Peter Jablonski will be speaking about changes and updates to our CMD CAP program. Peter is our CMD CAP manager. So first, I would like to have our director, Romulus Asenlu, say a few words. Thank you.
Forgot to turn off the mute. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you, Ingrid. And thank you, Latan. Before I start, my name is Romulus Asenlu. I'm the director of the Contract Monitoring Division. I also want to thank very much President Walton for all of his leadership and his support of our program, and more importantly, all the local small businesses in the community. And I also want to welcome all of you here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Asenlu. So today, CMD is here to speak about our 14B local business enterprise ordinance overview, our LBE certification updates, operational changes. We will give you some information on pilot programs that are being created due to these changes, some new requirements regarding penalties and the next steps for our local business enterprises. We'll also give you some information about our contractor accelerated payment program and our expanded technical assistance to our local business enterprise firms. The local business enterprise Thank you. The local business enterprise ordinance, as you may be aware, is in the process of legislative changes. Effective December 13th, 2021, there were changes to the certification program. There's two changes to the ordinance, and they will be conducted in two phases. The first phase is the certification changes, which took effect, as I mentioned, on December 13th. And the second phase will be the creation of programs and legislative updates that our director will speak about, which will take effect July 1st, 2022. As you can see here, this chart reflects our most recent update, which is the update to our local business enterprise economic thresholds. The amounts have been increased after many, many years. I'm excited here today to discuss these recent changes because these changes will allow more local business enterprise firms to enter into our program, or firms who graduated from our program will now be able to come back into our program as a local business enterprise. As you can see, the previous thresholds were lower, and you can see the new thresholds are higher, and they are listed here by the macro categories. The chart shows that the gross receipts a firm may have is increased for all certification categories. It shows the micro, small, and SBA sizes for local business enterprises. With this update, firms will also submit 5 years of taxes so that we can determine their average gross receipts and eligibility to meet these thresholds. Next slide. So there were 2 changes to certification. The first change is the gross receipts, the average gross receipts threshold amount, and that was on the chart. The second change was to the number of years that the firm's average gross receipts are calculated. Previously, we calculated those receipts for 3 years, and now it is 5. So this means that our local business enterprise firms will submit 5 years of taxes instead of 3. Thereby, they will have a longer range of gross receipts for CMD to calculate and give them more opportunity in the local business enterprise program to meet the thresholds on the chart. This chart that I showed previously is also available on our CMD website under Local Business Enterprise Certification and Resources. And if you have any questions regarding the chart or gross receipts calculation, you can also send an email to the LBE Certification Unit at lbecert@sfgov.org. So that's lbecert@sfgov.org. Notably, the chart will be updated every 5 years based on the Urban Regional Consumer Price Index. So next steps, we know we have those 2 changes to the threshold amounts and to the way that we calculate the number of years. So if you are a current LBE, how does this pertain to you? How does this apply to you? Current LBEs are already certified. Certification review is optional unless your firm is expiring or you request a review under the new thresholds. You do not need to request a review under the new thresholds unless you are a small or SBA size firm. If you are already a micro size firm, you do not need to request a review under the new thresholds unless your firm is expiring. And we'll have time for questions later. SBA and small size firms should think about, am I a SBA or am I small? And if you do not know if you're SBA or a small size firm, please reach out to the email I provided and our staff can help you. The other question you should ask yourself is, under the new thresholds, if I look at my gross receipts over 5 years, will I change to small or micro? If so, then you should request a review under the new thresholds. Micro LBEs do not need to take action. Next slide. So certification next steps for current or former small and SBA LBEs may be different. Action may be required to request a certification review. So what action do you need to take if you're a small and SBA LBE? First, you need to create a 14B certification application online in the city supplier portal, which is located at sfcitypartner.sfgov.org. You can also email our office at lbecert@sfgov.org. So you have two options. You can submit your application online by logging into sfcitypartner.sfgov.org, and under the dashboard, there's an option for 14B certification application. You would choose that option and upload your supporting documents. Or you can submit those documents by email with a paper application. While our offices are closed, we are checking the mail, and we do have admin staff who can pick up mail. So if you need to mail it, you can mail it to 1155 Market Street, 4th floor in San Francisco, 94103. So what type of supporting documents do you need with the application to show your request under the new threshold? You will submit your 5 most recent years of tax returns, personal and business. Personal for all owners and for the business. If you haven't been in business for 5 years, then submit the tax returns for the number of years of which your firm has been in business. Additionally, if there's been any changes to your firm, for instance, if you graduated from the LBE program and you're requesting review under the new thresholds, you may have changed your address, or owners may have changed, or you may have changed your entity type. If so, submit documents to show those changes. Additionally, if you've already submitted taxes to CMD, for instance, we require the most recent 5 years of taxes. If you've already submitted 2016, 17, and 18, then you would only need to submit 2019 and 20 with your application. If CMD already has those tax years, you do not need to submit them again. Next slide. For new firms, action is required for certification review. What action is required? You must also submit a 14B certification application. And now we know you can do that online at the city supplier portal at sfcitypartner.sfgov.org, or you can submit your paper application and supporting documents by email to lbecert@sfgov.org, or you can mail them in to our main office at 1155 Market Street in San Francisco. New firms must submit all supporting documents required for LBE certification. That includes your most recent 5 years of tax returns. For all owners, submit your personal tax returns and the 5 years of business tax returns if you've been in business 5 years, or to indicate the number of years you've been in business. You must submit all ownership documents, documentation to show that you are a San Francisco local business. That would be your office lease for your headquarters. Proof of experience in the form of 3 contracts or invoices, business registration, and payroll documents. You may also submit proof that you're requesting certification as a minority-owned business or a woman-owned businesses, of which you may select one. Next slide. So I talked about the changes to the 14B Local Business Enterprise Ordinance. As you can ascertain, certification review may be different for our current LBEs, for SBA and small LBEs, and for new firms who are requesting or submitting an application to become an LBE. We have a first Wednesday workshop that you may want to attend if you are a new firm. It's on the first Wednesday of every month. You can send a request to RSVP to lbecert@sfgov.org. And I would like to introduce our director next, who will talk about the 14B legislative updates. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good morning. This is Romulus Asenlu, Director of Contract Monitoring Division. Thank you again for having us all. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview before we go over the 14B operational updates. The LBE program was established in 2006 after the city's MBE WBE program was struck down under Prop 209. The LBE program is a race and gender neutral program and used to address economic and social challenges that all of our local small businesses face. Recently, as you are aware, the LBE program was established by a new LBE program was established by the Board of Supervisors and the Mayor. There are 2 effective dates for this legislation. The first one has already passed, December 13th. That has to do with all the changes related to certification that Laton had spoken about. And number 2, changes related to the operational or compliance portion of our program, which will be effective 1 July 2022. Among the changes, as you can see here, include the CMD director being able to establish 3 separate LBE sub-participation requirements, which would allow us to establish a micro LBE, a small LBE, and an SBA level LBE contracting goals when appropriate. Number 2, departments are also to create distinct portions of work, i.e. break up scopes of work or contracts on mixed funded projects so as to maximize the use of maximize LBE applicability or the LBE program applicability when there may be federal funding in it. As you know, under federal law, if a federal project does not take into account local preference. So this is a way to maximize the use of LBEs on certain portions of the work, but still take advantage of other funding that the city needs. And thirdly, the amount of contracts needed to be bid or solicited with an RFP has increased. This provides LBEs with greater opportunity to work directly with city departments in getting contracts under the micro LBE set-asides and informal contracting processes, also known as SF First. This will also help overall departments increase its LBE participation overall. Next slide. In addition to that, in addition to the slide that we had before, the Board of Supervisors and the mayor have sought to explore other ways to get more LBEs, especially those located in the most disadvantaged neighborhoods, the opportunity to obtain and operate on city contracts. Currently, we are designing 3 pilot programs to meet the board and mayor's objectives. One is the micro LBE trucking program, which is to ensure that a set percentage of anticipated trucking work can go to our micro LBE trucking firms. As you know, on construction projects, much of the LBE participation is usually pulled out at the early echelons of subcontractors. And so by the time a prime gets to using truckers, a lot of times the amount of dollars that can be used for them has dried up. So we think that this is going to allow our larger primes to help focus a portion of their efforts on getting as many micro LBE truckers to participate on our CMGC and design build projects. The second one is a neighborhood LBE preference program. Its objective is to assist LBEs, especially micro LBEs, to have the opportunity to bid and win on construction projects that are in or around their own neighborhood. As you know, especially for construction contractors, most of our LBEs are in the most disadvantaged neighborhoods, including 94103 and 94124, 107, and 134. That also happens to coincide with much of the many of the projects that the city also lets. So we're hoping that this also allows us to really get as many of our new and old firms to participate on these projects and grow their business. The third is the Mentor Protege pilot program. We are expanding that program, which is aimed to encourage more participation by potential mentors in our formal Mentor Protege program, by adding possible rating bonuses during the selection process when they go after large RFQs or RFPs. To support these efforts, the Lbe Advisory Committee, and I believe we have at least 2 people here today, Dr. Ajake and Mr. Wayne Perry, who are part of the Lbe Advisory Committee. They have established 2 subcommittees that are focused on assisting in the design and advice of the trucking and the neighborhood preference pilot programs. Next slide. In addition to the previous changes that we've previously briefed, we have also added a number of changes to help ensure that LBEs listed on teams are paid timely and are used in accordance with the prime's proposal. We have included a new section supporting the prompt payment program, which requires prime contractors to accept subcontractor invoices to the city within 30 days. We have also increased the penalties for non-compliance when a prime fails to utilize a listed LBE from up to 10% to now up to 25%, as well as add a note of that non-compliance in the contractor's evaluation report. And this obviously has impact downstream for when a contractor tries to bid again on a city-funded construction contract or contract period. So as to the implementing the 14B changes, we are focused on the following tasks. Oh, I'm sorry, next slide. So as you can see here, we have a number of tasks to fully implement our program. We have already started implementing the changes to our certification and documents and our processes. As you know, as Latan had mentioned, we've already, as of December 13th, started recertifying folks that are going before us to get a redesignation. And we are also giving them new certification letters. Those certification letters also include the supervisorial districts that will help support the neighborhood preference pilot programs later on. So when you get your new certification letters, please make sure that your supervisory district is listed there. If you're missing it, please let us know and we will correct it. We're also in the process of updating our 14B rules and regs and other bidding contracts pending the design and approval of the various pilot programs that we're working on. And also we continue to conduct our informational campaign, making sure that we get out the word that 14B has changed. We've increased the size standards. We've added more provisions to assist our local small businesses, especially those that live and reside in our or operate in our most disadvantaged neighborhoods. And we're looking for you, all of you here, to also help spread the word. We also encourage all of you to attend, if you have the time, any upcoming certification or business technical assistant workshops. We've done a lot to try to revamp a lot of these workshops so as to provide training information that will benefit you, the LBEs. Next slide. And with that, that's the end of my portion. I will also like to introduce Mr. Peter Jablonski, my CMD, Contractor Accelerated Payment Program Manager. And here he is. Thank you.
Thank you, Romulus. Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'm Peter Jablonski from the city's Contract Monitoring Division. And before I start, I'd like to thank you, Ingrid, for including me, and also thank you, Jen, and the rest of the Merriwether team for organizing this. And also, of course, thank Supervisor Walton for your leadership and support. I wanted to briefly introduce the Contractor Accelerated Payment Program, otherwise known as CAP. Thank you, which I administer for the city. The CAP program is part of the Contract Monitoring Division and is in its pilot phase. CAP has helped several LBEs in San Francisco since its inception in 2019. In essence, the program provides working capital loans up to $250,000 at 4% interest to certified LBE contractors that are awarded City and County of San Francisco construction jobs. The loans are administered through a third-party funds controller and can be used for payroll, materials, supplies, or to lease equipment. These loans are backed by a 50% guarantee from the city and are paid back when the work is completed and the contractor is paid. The program was given $1 million in seed capital from the San Francisco Community Investment Fund. The CAP program is geared towards helping small business owners who may not otherwise qualify for a business loan with a commercial bank. As part of the CAP loan process, applicants are provided with training on how to prepare cash flow projections and budgets. The spirit of the program is to help prepare applicants to succeed in building capital and skills to get commercial business loans in the future. Other wraparound services offered in conjunction include bonding and technical services through Merriwether and Williams. The CAP program is for LBE contractors and is only for city jobs. So Essentially, if you're bidding on a city job and you think you have a chance of winning it and you anticipate needing working capital, you should reach out to myself or Merriwether, and we will help guide you through the loan process. My email will be posted, I think a couple slides from now, and I will also post it in the chat. And now I think we are going to take some questions. Thank you.
Peter, there are actually some questions that folks have entered in the Q&A. They are partially related to certification. So Latan, if you're still there, someone asked that we put your chart back up again. We're going to send that chart as part of the PowerPoint to everyone. So you'll have your very own copy of that, but thank you. And then Latan, someone's looking for confirmation. So as a micro LBE, I don't need to take any action for the new rules and regulations is the question.
As a micro LBE, sorry. As a micro LBE, you do not need to request certification review or take any action under the new thresholds. However, please note your expiration date. We would ask that you submit your recertification documents at least 60 days in advance. We have been receiving quite a few applications due to the threshold change, and we definitely want to be mindful and make time for that as well. But no, they do not need to take any action. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Latan. And Romulus, I'm going to direct questions about set-asides to you. So we have an LBE firm that's indicating they've not seen any set-aside contracts and asking how those can be accessed.
So most micro LBE set-asides, whether under the old threshold or the new thresholds, aren't always posted on the SF partner website and or on the department's individual bid and opportunities websites.
And Romulus, I think confirmation, because I know this has always confused me a little bit. The set-asides are specific to micro LBEs. Am I correct? Not LBEs, but they have to be micro LBEs.
Yes, so so when we're talking about set-asides, we're specifically talking about micro LBE set-asides, yes.
Thank you. And I'm just checking. Someone's asking a question. What is the practical difference in the bid process? Oh, well, here's one related to what I just said. What's the practical difference in the bid process for micro LBEs when compared to a small LBE? Romulus?
I don't understand the question.
Well, I guess they're asking if there's any difference in the bid process if you're a micro LBE versus I guess a regular LBE, which the answer would be no, with the exception of a set aside, which would be limited to micro LBEs.
Yes.
Okay, and then a couple more. We're an LBE and 14B certified, but are not getting any technical IT projects in the supplier portal, and told that it's only reserved for certain firms that are listed in the tech marketplace. How do we get on that list? As a minority woman-owned business, we are being excluded from bidding on work.
So the tech marketplace is a contracting environment that is set by the Office of Contract Administration. There is an RFQ process that's let every couple of years. I think Wayne Perry can probably talk a little bit more about that experience, but normally there's a set period in which a set time period for which this as-needed pool of contractors that are accepted into that pool are able to then compete at various tiers. At least that's the current design. My understanding is they are going to make OCA will be amending that design criteria of how folks are brought into the pool and given contracts during the next phase. I'm not sure when the next RFQ is going to be let, though. I know it's going to be probably soon.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions. So more questions about the micro LBE set-asides. Just trying, it sounds like someone's looking for clarity to find out where to identify where micro LBE set-asides are happening. Like where can someone go to find out if there are any open bids or opportunities for micro LBE set-asides?
As I stated before, all contract opportunities, whether it's micro LBE or more formalized procurement opportunities, are listed on the SF Partner website. We can probably provide Ingrid. We can provide you, Ingrid, with the email, not email, but the URL address,
Sure.
so that people can access that. Or they can also access or peruse the different departments' own websites, where especially the larger ones that usually have their own procurement web pages.
Okay, thank you. And one more question, and then we'll move on to the next part of today's presentation. So the question is, what resources are available for LBEs to market directly to various city departments? Romulus.
There is no direct vehicle for LBEs to market themselves to different departments. It's usually done the old-fashioned way through networking and attending various outreach events such as this, where there may be department project managers or contracting administration folks that are in the audience. It's unfortunate we haven't had a chance to, let me back up. We have had some opportunities. I know that we do have one coming up. I'll do a plug-in for the Port of San Francisco that will be hosting one of those events. I'm not sure when. I know it's maybe next month or in April. Latan can tell you more, but that there, I understand that there's some means technology-wise where there will be breakout sessions in small rooms, for quote unquote small virtual rooms, for businesses to kind of meet with individual PMs or contracting representatives.
Thank you. And then I see we've heard from our friend Tiffany Tatum at the Port of San Francisco, who's been posting in the chat her contact information. And Tiffany is sharing that the Port is going to be hosting an open house, including one-on-one matchmaking, on March 24th. And just so you all have it, you can reach out to Tiffany. Her email is Tiffany, TIFFANY, .Tatum, TATUM, at sfport.com. And she might be able to give you some more information about that, but it looks like she's going to be promoting and advertising that event. So stay tuned. It seems like there's something that's maybe even in person coming up. So with that, we'll get on with more of the presentation. I want to thank CMD. Latan, you really are a gem to have there, especially with these kind of changes that have happened in terms of certification. That was a very comprehensive overview. And I think it's very clear if anyone has any questions, Latan is the person to contact because she's very versed in kind of all the facets and complexities around certification and can guide you through the process. And Romulus and Peter, thank you as well, just not just for today, but just for your support ongoing for the LBE community.
I also wanted to say,
yeah. Go ahead.
I also wanted to say, we have, there's some feedback. I also wanted to add that, if anybody has issues related to their contract or their or not getting paid, especially prompt payment issues, feel free to come to us if you've basically exhausted all the other normal chain of command, processes through your prime and the department PM. If you can't go anywhere else, certainly I want to put it out there that you can certainly contact your compliance officer or reach out to me, and I'll direct them to the applicable assigned compliance person, and we'll try to see if there's something that we can do. Sometimes it could be a dispute related to scopes of work, which that might cause some difficulty. But there are other times in which there's delays outside the LBE's control, and they've done nothing wrong, and sometimes we're able to shake the tree and get some type of payment to the LBE as fast as we can. So don't let it fester or wait for 60 to 90 days before you give us a call, and you feel you can't move on anymore. So I want to put that out there.
Thank you, Romulus. And I just want to thank Nicholas Colina, who added a post in the chat. I just want to bring your attention to that there is a AGC event on April 5th that I believe is focused on resources, workforce development, and the Small Business Construction Expo. So you guys might want to check the chat box every now and then. Folks are posting information that might be helpful. So at this juncture, we wanted to give you all an overview of the Contractor Development Program, which also includes CAP. So we'll share a little more details about that Peter introduced earlier. And so I'll take the mic for just a minute to share some of this information with you. First off, this is a very long-standing running program with the City and County of San Francisco. It's been in place for 25 years. I have to say and acknowledge appreciation for that, because we've been administering the program for that long. We actually started prior to that at the airport, and that was back in the day when Willie Brown saw to it that if something was working for LBEs, that it had to be spread around. So it was expanded citywide in 1997. And so we're just now entering our 21st year in business and the 24-year history of the Contractor Development Program. So I want to thank the city for just the ongoing support of making sure these types of resources that are really substantive are available to LBE contractors. So just a little bit about the program. It's assessment-based technical assistance. So it's not kind of a cookie cutter model that, every contractor is provided the same thing. This is individualized. Contractors come into the program, enroll. We start with this assessment-based kind of analysis to see where your areas of strength are and where there are opportunities that we might be able to even better position you in terms of your goals and ability to access opportunities. We average about 60 LBE participants a year who are enrolled and receiving services in the program. Next slide. So who's eligible for this program? That's pretty easy. It follows all of those certifications that you heard Latan talk about. You actually don't have to be fully certified at the time we start to assist you, but you need to be eligible for certification. So this is a resource for LBEs. If you're just in the early stages of getting your business underway, we can still help you and work with you. Some of the specific resources like bonding assistance and the CAP program will necessitate you being certified for those particular resources, but the technical assistance and helping you kind of get the business underway to the point of where you're certified is support that we can provide you with. If you're looking to do business with SFPUC, they have a little broader certification category that goes beyond just San Francisco because of their service territory. So the program tracks with their certification. And then the same for MTA, because they're federally funded. They have additional certifications for SBE and DBE that, of course, are necessary for their projects. And so the program extends to those certification categories specifically for SFMTA. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we do, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of, are series of workshops. And this is just some of the areas that we're going to touch upon. So strategic planning, business and profit modeling, and strategic business plans, financial preparation and management. This is going to help support your participation in CAP, the Contractor Accelerated Payment Program, which does have a pre-qualification process to it. But I think what's important to understand that CAP support, the Contractor Accelerated Payment support, is not based on your financials, and it's not based on your credit scoring. Really, this is funding that is being available through the support of the San Francisco Community Investment Fund for LBE contractors who are awarded contracts with the city to provide basically gap cash flow funding, in the recognition that, you know, you have to expend your own dollars before you start receiving progress payments, and how much of a challenge that can be, in particular for an LBE or small firm. So this funding is really based on you being awarded the project and some level of pre-qualification that you're required to do, but all of the requirements are areas of technical assistance that we can work with you to get you there. So it's not like we're going to just send you a list and say, okay, go do all these things and come back when you're ready. We're going to share with you what's needed, but we're going to walk you through every step of the process and provide you technical assistance so that you're in a position to generate what's required and participate in the program. And I can say maybe one way to understand it is we've had some participants in CAP who reached out to us, and within 30, 45 days, we were processing a CAP loan for them. So you govern how quickly that can happen. Because, if you approach what's required with some urgency and take advantage of the support that we can provide you to get you there, it can happen in pretty short order. Some of the other areas you're going to see some training is around organizational approach to selecting ideal projects for you, estimating, and then project management. Next slide. So the surety bond program, part of now the Contractor Development Program, has been around for more than 25 years. So this is really to address the barrier that bonding represents for small and diverse firms. It's one of those kind of catch-22s where, you kind of need to already qualify for bonding to qualify for bonding. And so we kind of refer to this as a disruptive model. Because we can provide things like bond guarantees. The city gives us the ability to do that up to 40% of the bond amount, or $750,000, whichever's less, puts us in a position to help you qualify for a bond with a bonding company where you might not otherwise meet their requirements. We've done 161 surety bond guarantees to date through the program. That has facilitated just under 500 project bids for 109 individual LBEs that supported them being able to bid on $500 million worth of city contracts. And of that $500 million, contractors were successful on $130 million in awarded contracts. So the objective of this element of the program is really to remove the barrier of bonding that puts you in a position to bid. And then, of course, we're always most satisfied when your bid is a successful bid and it turns into a contract for you. One of the things that I think is very telling about the LBE contractor community as a whole is the number of defaults we've had in the program in 25 years, and that's all of one. And I think that's very telling in terms of what the true capacity is, the competency, the aptitude, the attitude of LBEs and diverse contractors, that when they are given access to an opportunity, a little bit of supported services, that their performance is really unparalleled, even by comparison to their much larger peers. The loss ratio that we track in our program is under 1%. So in 25 years, in all of our programs, both San Francisco and elsewhere, we've only had 2 contractors ever default. And by comparison, the surety industry loss ratio for contractors is about 20%. So we think this really dispels perceptions that small and diverse contractors are somehow less qualified than their larger peers. We think the data that our program is able to generate really proves otherwise. And I want to take a moment to thank all of our LBE contractors who participated in the San Francisco CDP for these results, because, you know, we can help facilitate you getting bonding or contract financing, maybe provide some added training and support. But when it comes to prosecuting the work, you are all the ones out in the field getting it done. And so I want to acknowledge that and really tell you how impactful that is, because the results of the program in San Francisco has led to the replication of the program in other locations. So we're now in Los Angeles and in the East Bay modeling San Francisco's program there. But the biggest advantage we have in convincing agencies to bring a program like this on board is this low default rate. And that's really where, again, I want to acknowledge the LBE contractors who, when given an opportunity, you know, by hell or high water, make sure that they complete the work successfully. So thank you for that. Next slide. So you heard a little bit from Peter about the Contractor Accelerated Payment Program. It is still in a pilot phase. We think we're going to have an announcement pretty soon in terms of resources with some additional funding for CAP that we're going to be able to make available so that we can start to scale this program and have more capacity for LBEs to participate in it. We've done 8 CAP loans to date. Again, this might sound like a small number, but that's still in the pilot phase. We had to kind of design the plane of CAP, fly the plane, and try to land the plane kind of all at the same time. This is a kind of a very novel program. There is not something that kind of pre-exists that we just picked up and continued. This was really created through some innovation and collaboration, and really building on the successful history of the surety bond program. That was the main foundation that put us in a position to create the Contractor Accelerated Payment Program. The average loan to date has been $180,000. We've had some go all the way up to the cap of $250,000, but the average is $180,000. That has supported contract values of about $7.5 million. And a way to connect the dots between contract awards to LBEs is job opportunities for local hires. And so we've been able to track that the LBEs supported through CAP supported 42 local hires. Next slide. So really the technical assistance aspects of the CDP program is really all about building capacity. You know, it takes a conducive ecosystem for small and diverse contractors to have a nurturing environment that enables them to grow while they are being awarded contract opportunities. And so the structure of the program is really to provide education, training, technical assistance, but doing that concurrently with being able to provide bonding assistance and contract financing for your immediate opportunities. We understand that, you know, your primary goal every day as an LBE is to make sure that, you know, you have work, that you can keep your workers employed, that you can cover your obligations. And until you feel confident that you're able to do that, your ability to take on the time for training and other type of development comes secondary. And so the program is really recognizes that and provides you kind of both simultaneously. So here are some of the areas in capacity building. If you're a brand new LBE, we can help you with some startup support to get you going. We can help you do some marketing, both in terms of your collateral materials. We've got some referrals to help with websites. We're going to help you around estimating, project management, safety and loss control, bid document review. If you are awarded a contract, and in particular, if the city is providing any financial support, we're going to provide you with project completion support, because it's in everybody's interest that if you're awarded a contract, that you have successful completion. But even if we're not providing you financial support, if you're having some issues on your projects, we're a source that you can reach out to and may be in a position to help you. So these are going to come in the form of workshops, program training, and then of course, one-on-one coaching. Next slide. So a little bit about the contract financing program, and this is just kind of reiterating what Peter said. This is really what's called contract-based financing. So again, it's tied to a contract award of a city contract. It's meant to provide you working capital to fund the expenses related to that contract up to $250,000. The interest rate is very competitive at 4%. We have the San Francisco Community Investment Fund to thank for allowing us to keep the interest rate that low. We do only support one project at a time, but you know, if you're at the end of one project and the beginning of another one, we might be able to do something in a circumstance such as that. And again, this is funding to cover your direct and a portion of your indirect project expenses. And as Peter mentioned, we use third-party funds administration. It's a risk mitigation tool that's necessary to make this type of resource available. And we can give you more details on how that works if you reach out to us. Next slide. Again, you have to be a certified firm to participate in CAP. Currently, it's for construction or supply contracts only. And the projects have to qualify. So they either have to be Chapter 6 or deemed eligible for contract financing through some other means. And so it starts to get technical about what the funding composition is of the project to determine whether or not we can provide this assistance. And I think I noticed we have a participant in the event today, one of our LBEs, Tristan Dion, who I wanted to actually invite to speak a little bit. Tristan is really one of the LBEs who's taken advantage of a number of the resources available through the CDP program. And I always think it's best when you hear from one of your peers kind of what their experience is. And we're really excited about the growth of Tristan's firm. And so Judy, if you can help us, and Tristan, if you're there, if you can unmute him, I think folks would love to hear a little bit about one of the LBEs who's a participant in the program.
Yes, let me see if I can get Tristan on.
Okay. You all just give us a moment here. And Judy Singhara, who's you just heard, is helping to facilitate our technology here. So I want to thank her. And there's Tristan right there. Tristan, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. I saw you on the participant screen. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to just put him on blast here and ask him to kind of speak up a little bit so our other LBE firms can hear a little bit about you and your business and your growth, and in particular, how you've worked with the CDP program.
Definitely. No, it's been an honor. As I've mentioned to you and your team before, it was absolutely game changing for us. It's how we were able to pull off the SFO Courtyard Connector project with Hensel Phelps and NGI. And same thing even recently with the Mission Rock development in Swinnerton. We just are going through our bonding process and hope we'll be able to get started out there. But your guys' program has hands down been the most impactful for us over the years. Getting to know Jennifer, John, Peter, everyone within your team has been extremely helpful to us. Even the specifics involved with the cash flow projections, being able to review the contracts together, you guys have been extremely supportive for us, and we're definitely looking forward to continue to grow over the years to come. But I can't say enough how much you guys have made a huge impact on our growth, though.
Thank you, Tristan. And what I want to do is acknowledge you, because it's a two-way street. You know, the old saying, help us help you, is really applicable to the CDP program. We can do more when an LBE firm is fully engaged with us, who's participating in the trainings, the engagement, who makes the kind of commitment that Tristan and his team have made. That's really when the city's program works best. So Tristan, we're really proud of all of your growth and development, and being able to profile you as a participant in the CDP really helps to tell the story, and thank you for sharing a few comments. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Judy, if you. Okay, I think we'll go back to the presentation. I think I'm about to conclude here, and I'm going to be turning this over shortly. Next slide, Judy, to the rest of our presenters today, but just briefly, some of the benefits. Go back one slide, Judy. Some of the benefits of the CDP program really is to gain greater capacity in the overall management, financial tracking, projections, and project execution skills while building your contracting capacity. The program is there to assist you in securing, either establishing bonding capacity if you don't have it currently, or increasing it. Of course, the CAP program there is there to provide you contract funding, and it really helps to support your ability to access traditional sources of financing, because one of the things that the program does is provide good results in the credit rating system. So it's there to help you start to build some good credit, which of course helps you towards accessing more traditional resources. And then I have to say it is significant in terms of prime contractors feeling more comfortable about an LBE firm for whom maybe they don't have a past relationship with. We all understand that, you know, prime contractors, one of the aspects they are always focused on is managing risk. And so since most of their work is done through subcontractors, you know, they really put you through the process in terms of pre-qualifying you and assessments. And that is all based on their concern about mitigating risk. So they have really embraced the program, in particular the CAP program, because they know how much of a challenge it is for LBE firms to have access to capital and keep their projects funded. And so they've really welcomed the CAP program as a tool that helps them engage LBEs, again, for whom maybe they haven't had a long established history with. So it kind of helps towards you pre-qualifying with the primes. And if you are working on a project or anticipate working on a project and would like to have us engage with the prime, we're happy to do that, to let the prime know as an enrollee in the CDP program, what resources you're going to have access to, the support that you're going to be given. And sometimes that makes a difference with a prime. And then, of course, all of this is to help expand your access to new project opportunities and your overall growth. And so with that, I'm going to go to just a slide to help us if we have any questions, which I'm checking now. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do this just in the interest of time. I'll look at the questions while our next presenters are speaking, and then I'll come back with some responses. So just here quickly is our contact information. I don't expect you to capture this because this will all be sent to you in the PowerPoint presentation after the event. So we'll move on and get to the last of our presentations today, and really excited to have two gentlemen who I've known for many years. Actually, one of them has been a client of ours, I think, for 25 years, since the beginning of our firm, and happy to have him here. So I'm going to, you can advance the slide. I'm going to kind of preface the introduction to these two gentlemen because they're both members of the Lbe Advisory Committee. And so just for everyone to have a little understanding about the advisory committee, it was constituted in 2013. The purpose of the committee is to identify contracting opportunities, problems, or challenges that may affect LBEs. They're also responsible for recommending solutions and offer advice to the CMD director and the city administrator and the mayor. They have regular meetings. The meetings are public. They're typically held every other month. The next meeting, I understand, is coming up in April. They might meet more frequent based on workflow, and they were instrumental in helping get the LBE legislative changes enacted. So with that, next slide, I'm going to introduce two individuals who I highly respect and think of fondly. Wayne Perry, he's a member of the CMD LBE Advisory Committee, and Matthew Ajake, who's also a member of the LBE Advisory Committee and also happens to be the president of the San Francisco African American Chamber. So we're going to start off with Mr. Perry. Thank you, Mr. Perry, for joining us today.
Thanks, Ingrid.
Absolutely.
As you've mentioned, I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
Here, let me mute myself.
Okay. Oh, much better. Thank you. So as you've mentioned, as Ingrid mentioned, we've known each other for a long time. I've been a very, very, very long time advocate for small business. I've been appointed as an advocate to various committees, both at the state level and the local level. And I am here today as a member of the Lbe Advisory Committee. I'm also a local small business owner. And some of the comments I'll make, my comments will really focus on capacity building. But I would like to acknowledge the hard work that the other members collectively as a group, we made a contribution to helping guide the process to get the 14B changes made. And those changes will really impact and significantly support the growth of our local businesses. Ingrid and, Latan did a very good job of outlining what those changes are. And with those increased thresholds, it will make it easier for us to do business in the city as we remain LBEs and we try to grow our firms and sustain our firms. I'd like to invite Matthew to maybe talk about some of the contracting practices. I think the policy support that the city provides is one of those tools is 14B. The practices of the city policies are very important as well. And I'd like to invite Matthew to speak about some of those practices, whether they are set asides or contract unbundling and other strategies and practices that help local businesses. Matthew?
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Wayne, for that introduction, and Ingrid for your kind words, and all the other protocols being observed in regards to everybody on the Zoom. I'm excited to talk about some of the practices that the city has and has had for a while that have been very effective, in the sense that the city has been very proactive in supporting small businesses like ours in so many ways. 14B is one such practice that it's not only been very helpful to our community, but it's been helpful to our small businesses individually as well as collectively. The set-asides are very oftentimes mentally put together with Proposition 209. When you hear set-asides, you think it's 209, and the two are not really related if you truly want to be equitable and inclusive. And the reason they're not related is that set-aside is one managerial tool for helping those other groups that have been cast aside for too long. And so the set-aside brings them into the inclusion mode where they're able to participate in city projects and contracts. So when you hear set-asides, if that's part of your mental model that it is affirmative action and 209, it is not. It is a way to bring balance into the imbalance of society in terms of participation of taxpayers, San Francisco taxpayers in San Francisco contracting. Unbundling is also another area where we are very passionate about talking with city officials and city contract managers, because oftentimes when contracts are put together, there are many factors that go into play, and it all affects how we think. Usually we think in three ways: automatically, or socially, or through mental models. So unbundling oftentimes for the project manager within the city will be, I don't want to manage all these little projects and all these little contractors. And so unbundling is more of an efficient way for project manager to bundle a project. The disadvantage is that it leaves out a lot of those people that could really grow their capacity within the city contracting ecosystem if those contracts are broken down. And that brings us to that place of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Really, I'm not talking about social welfare here. We're talking about businesses. Businesses are here to not only sustain the business owner, but also to sustain the communities that they belong to. And in the African-American community, the scoring of projects oftentimes does not include the very unique challenges, disadvantages, and issues that Black businesses face in San Francisco. And so that's why when you talk about inclusion, when you talk about diversity, when you talk about equity, we're not talking about anything other than supporting businesses so that they can support their families and their communities, and so that they can take it to another level, generational wealth transfer. And that's why DEI as a scoring mechanism allows the city and organizations to really be able to enforce some of these things. Because people talk about DEI all the time, but it has become like the language that everybody hears, but nobody understands. And as a result, the scoring will be one way to make sure everybody understands, because everybody understands that if there's a pointing or scoring mechanism for contracting, they would know how to play the game to ensure that they win the contracts. So in a nutshell, contracting practices, while the city has been very good at helping small businesses develop over the years, we feel like today we need to change the language. We need to change the language because automatic thinking goes on in how people perceive the participation of African-American women and other minority groups in city contracting. Social thinking has set the stage for that to happen. And the mental models that we've developed about, oh, it's affirmative action, or they can't really do work very well, all of that needs to change. And that's why the DEI construct that we use, hopefully will get us there.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. So, one of the purposes of the Lbe Advisory Committee is not only to advocate, but we also want to listen to the needs and the ideas of local businesses around contracting practices. And so one idea that's being used, Ingrid's firm is using and modeling it in places like Los Angeles, where DEI is actually a category, a scoring category. If you're competing for contracts, there is a scoring system that includes how diverse and how inclusive your business is, or how inclusive your organization is, or your team, when you're pursuing a contract. And this is a new concept, but it's one idea that we can look at perhaps implementing here in San Francisco. But the purpose of this, one of the purposes of this forum is to hear the idea. So we're looking forward to getting feedback from you from this session. I know there's been a lot of information that's been presented today. And so we want to capture that information. Matthew and I and the other members of the Lbe committee would like to hear from you as we establish our 2022 agenda, and let us know how we can hear your ideas and to hear your voices and be able to integrate those into our agenda, so we can advocate for local businesses. In the interest of time, I'll just say to final comment, capacity building is everything as we try to grow and sustain our businesses. Businesses like Ingrid, have been able to not only, grow her business here in San Francisco, but she's been able to expand it outside the Bay Area. And so what is building capacity really means? Well, to me, really means is being able to first succeed at making a profit. If you can't make a profit, it's going to be very difficult for you to take those profits and invest them in your business. And so, a lot of firms grow their businesses very fast, but it's important that as we grow and then we build our foundation, and then we take the business to the next level. And so, I think that, my experience is that that's a very important part of growth is sustainment. So we want to grow our business, build the level, and then sustain that level, and then grow to the next level. So I think that's important to be able to make a profit, and Ingrid's organization through the Contract Development Program helps provide, guidance and tutoring and mentoring in that area. I myself have been a volunteer and a participant in some of those programs. So that's one part of it. And to be able to take those profits also and invest them in your workforce, which is also very important, to build your expertise around whatever services or products you offer. It's very important to build capacity that you invest in your workforce, hire people with the kinds of skills you need, not just for today, but also for the future. I know that's very, very difficult, but again, all of that needs to be done with the profits that you are able to make from your contracts, and then invest those profits into your growth. And then I'd say the last piece of it is investing those resources into relationships, partnerships, and networking. Vernon Jordan famously wrote in his book, Vernon Can Read, he wrote that 85% of being successful is showing up. Personally, I'm a big believer, and I'm very happy to know that 50-something people showed up today to participate in this forum. And so showing up in this city, I found over the last 36 years of my business is very important. Taking that time, investing that money, those resources into developing partnerships and relationships, but it starts with showing up to get the information. I think in the interest of time, I'll stop there, but I did want to let you know that we are going to take all of your questions and comments, and we're going to integrate them into our agenda at the Lbe Advisory Committee. And I'm so thankful to be part of this committee. I've been on the committee now for about 6 or 7 years, And we're trying to do great things for our businesses in San Francisco. And thank you for hearing me out today. Matthew, I appreciate you, your comments and helping me communicate these messages. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you. Thank you both to you and Wayne. And I'm going to just maybe make a couple of brief comments to give folks an opportunity to really chime in. This is part, I know we're near the end, maybe a couple minutes over the time we had anticipated, but this is really kind of an important part of this session. I don't think this is going to be the only forum in which you're going to have an opportunity to provide commentary or thoughts about what the Lbe Advisory Committee agenda might look like for 2022. So please, if you can use the chat to just throw in areas that you think need addressing. We'd like to kind of bring those up in the group and share those, since we have 2 members of the advisory committee here. And I also, while you guys are thinking about some of those areas, I wanted to just encourage your participation in organizations that are there to advocate for your interest. The San Francisco African American Chamber, I have seen it kind of the phoenix rising, I'll say, in terms of just becoming even more active and engaged. It takes membership, and not just joining and paying your membership dues, but becoming active. And I can tell you, been around long enough to know that when you start speaking up, and when you can do it in a collective voice, and bring not just what the challenges are, but possible solutions for that challenge, it can be very impactful. I think the recent changes to 14B, I think the advisory members would agree, it took too long. And that going forward, we can't wait years to bring about the changes to create a more conducive environment for LBEs. But the way to make it happen faster really means your involvement and your engagement. And whether it's through the African American Chamber or any of the other local community-based organizations that are activists for the issue of small local business, I think it is a good investment of your time and effort. They need you. They need to have renewed energy, new voices. And if we can continue to create forums like this and elevate the conversation in terms of the need and the benefits, the contribution of the LBE business community, we can really have some significant impact going forward. There are a couple of comments that I'll share that came in while we were talking, and then I know everybody's got a lot more on their agenda today, so we'll move towards closing this out. There's just a comment from Tristan. Thank you for your insight. We believe labor service agreements are an instrumental tool to help diverse micro LBEs. They promote unity with primes and help create sustainable growth for those of us doing our best to build our foundation. So Tristan speaking specifically about a contracting method, labor service agreements, that I think he's probably advocating for more of those maybe being available. So something that we can learn about from Tristan a little bit more and see what we can do to advocate for those being utilized more frequently. There was a comment from another member who's found the event today very informative. She's looking forward to getting some assistance from the program. We welcome that. And I think that's about it. We're a little over time. I want to thank everyone for your participation. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you again to the supervisor's office for co-sponsoring today's event. And as we said at the beginning, we're going to share the PowerPoint information, so you'll have the content, but also our contact information. This is really just a to give you some general opening conversation and information. The real impact happens when you reach out to us individually. So thank you again for everybody's participation, and have a good balance of the day. And we wish you much prosperity and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.